Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our fifth webinar series here at My Happy Place. Our focus today is on education and character. And what we'll be doing is having a very honest conversation on the influences of our children's characters and values. So what we will try to ask ourselves today is, why are values essential for a sound character and personality? What is our understanding and what is our responsibility? And what are the changing roles of a teacher? Are they limited only to classroom teaching, or they go beyond that? And we'll also explore the power of storytelling in character building. We hope to interrogate all these things, and to do that, we are assisted by a very eminent panel, one that I am just a teeny tiny bit intimidated by. First off, we have Dr. Vincent Ogutu, who is the Vice Chancellor Designate of Strathmore University. And this means that he'll be taking over from the current Vice Chancellor, who is Professor John Othiambo, next year. I'm hoping to come do a course. I'll come for a discount now that we've met. All right then. So what Daktari Ogutu identifies as is a teacher, because he's taught from grade 1 to PhD. I actually have never met anyone who's done that. So he identifies as a teacher. He enjoys running half marathons and learning new languages, and he loves music. His personal statement is something I found. Truly inspiring and made me go and rethink my own personal statement. What he said is he helps people find meaning and live a life of purpose. And he does this by mostly listening to them and asking them questions that help them discover their purpose. His specialty is in psychology of meaningful work. And he believes that the highest meaning one can find is to discover their calling. And I found that challenging and insightful and beautiful. And he also challenges people to find the cause with their name written on it, then to dedicate themselves wholeheartedly to it. It is wonderful to have you here, Dr. Vincent. Our second panelist is Patricia Kariuki, Mrs. And she is the principal, actually, let me use the correct word, the head teacher at Rusinga Schools. She's a passionate teacher and dedicated educator and lifelong learner. Because I know her a bit more, she's also a do-gooder in the education sector, quite passionate advocate for quality education in Kenya. She's been a teacher for 30 years and has led various teams where she has been. And what she wants to achieve most here, and what she wants us to take home, is to understand that character is built over time. Patience for all caregivers is a must. Role modeling, most of all, cannot be left to others but to ourselves, but to you as a person. So we are all role models to everybody at all times. And her favorite quote was something I found very interesting. The only way out is through. So the only way to live is work through your circumstances. And that is Mrs. Patricia Achesa Kariuki. Our third panelist is Mr. Clifford Olwoch. He has a nickname, which is Odijo. And he's the head teacher at Premier Academy. He's also a published author of children's literature and the founder of, what can we call it, an advocacy group, a home called Homeless of Nairobi. And what they do is rescue and feed street families in Nairobi. And the thing about Clifford is that he is passionate about weaving a unifying thread between the privileged and underprivileged. So he stands there as a bridge, and he does that very well. So this is our very wonderful panel, and I hope we can draw from them. And I hope we can have a wonderful discussion and draw from them what we need to learn and what we need to understand. I don't know whose mic is on, but I'll ask that it is muted. We also have a fourth panelist, who is Maggie Ireri, and she is the CEO TIFA. She's our resident researcher. Actually, that is an understatement. She's our resident research guru, and she's been very helpful in doing all the polls that we've had to do throughout this webinar series. And we are grateful to have her on board. And so what we are hoping today is to interrogate this conversation and ultimately to have this discussion with our children when the time is right. We have heard many things about people becoming who they're told they are, and today we are going to try and find the nexus between what we are as Kenyans versus what we've been told we are and what we've told ourselves we are. I'm just now going to welcome Maggie Reri to give us the poll results. Welcome, Maggie. Thank you.
So it's a pleasure to be here once again. So I want to start a poll, and I am actually putting it up. And the question is, so assuming you had a child, aged 9 to 17 years, would you allow your child to participate as a panelist in this webinar series, which is called the My Happy Place Special Education Webinar Series on Character and Values? Okay, it's 100% saying yes. That is not even changing. It's very clear, everyone would. Okay, and now let me go to the last question. Is assuming you had a child aged 9 to 17, would you allow your child to attend this webinar series as part of the audience? 100% say yes. So that comes to the end of the polling.
Thank you very much for the poll. Now, I'd like to state here that the polls help us get validated data, which feeds into policy, something that we aim to do with this series of webinars. So we are very grateful for that. I found it very interesting because I did see a poll where teachers, the opposite now, teachers were polled. And for them, they missed, children were number one. They missed children the most, whereas children missed their lessons. I don't know what that says. I think maybe Patricia will expound a little bit more on that. I think we are ready for our first panelist, who will be addressing values and he will be addressing why values are essential for sound character and personalities, and who do children listen to? What value do they ascribe to parents, to teachers, to guardians, and so on and so forth. So to do that, I will invite Dr. Vincent Ogutu, our eminent panelist, whose purpose is to teach other people how to find their purpose. So Daktari, welcome. Please take us through your presentation, stroke talk.
Thank you, Jane. I hope I'll manage. I'm still reeling from the shock that we're not the most popular people in town, that we're not the role models that these students look up to. And, I'm still recovering. But that said, this is a great topic, and thank you so much for putting this together. I always meet people who talk about values, especially when we're doing consulting. Different companies talk of their core values. This is the national values that we should be having. So values is a topic that we all hear a lot about. But what I like doing is taking a step back and asking myself, why? Why is values such a big word? Why so many books, so many inspirational speakers taking you through this idea of values? And I invite you to do the same. Have you ever taken a step back and asked yourself, what's the magic in the word values? And I'm saying this in a real sense. I want you to right now just think about it. What's so special about that word? Why aren't we using other words? Why aren't we talking about virtues? Why aren't we talking about competencies, skills? Why did we pick this word values? What does it actually mean? I know we all have this feeling that we understand what it means, but when someone asks you point blank, what does it mean? What's the magic in that word? It forces you to step back and ask yourself, what are values? And I think the answer is staring at you right now. It's in the word itself. This is what we do in class. We tell our students, so what do you think the answer is? And what are the clues? And the clue is right there in the word itself, values. In an economic sense, when you say value, we all know what that means. It's something that is pricey, something that is treasured, something you'd pay a lot of money for because you value it, something that is valuable, So all of that comes together when you come to the word values, and it begins to give you a bit of a hint as to why that word is so important, because we're talking about things we value, things that are important to us. But when you talk about somebody's values, what exactly are you saying? The same thing. You're saying these are the things that person values the most. These are the things that are of most importance to this person, the things they will not let go of. They can give up anything else. But if someone tries to take away something that is truly valuable to you, you will cling to it. You won't let it go easily. And that's what a value is. So a value is a deep belief. It's a belief, in fact, that is so deep that it doesn't allow you to do certain things. It guides you and pushes you and propels you in a certain direction. It's really a principle of action. It's also a principle of thoughts and of feelings. If you have certain values, they guide the way you think, feel, and act. I like giving practical examples because that takes it home to you. Let's look at the Germans and what their national values might be. And I think of excellence as a typically German value, where if you show me a machine, a piece of machinery that is badly made, it is not even well put together, it's not functioning, it's kind of just a hopeless piece of work, and you tell me, oh, this was made in Germany, I just won't believe that. And I think for most of you, you would also say, no, it can't have been made in Germany. And why are you so sure? And you'll say, no respectful German would let such a thing come out of their workshop. Like, no way. And you believe it because over the centuries, they've honed that particular trait so much that we've come to believe that nothing so substandard will come out of a German workshop. Why? Because it's a value. They have that value of excellence. And when you think of Japan, they think of honor as a big national value. So if you do something dishonorable, it's just something they don't do. And when you think about courtesy as well, you really can't think of a rude Japanese person. They're courteous to a fault because it's a value that they cherish, and it determines the way they move, the way they speak, the way they greet you, the way they say goodbye. When you say goodbye to a German, they keep bowing and bowing until you're out of sight. And when you turn around, you see them bowing again, and it's because it's courtesy is a national value. So there are certain things that are so powerful that they guide the way you speak, the way you act, the way you think, the way you feel. And that's why they're so important. And in today's conversation, we're going to look at how do people acquire values? Are they things that you're born with? For instance, a value is something that you're born with, or a value is something that you can acquire. And it's interesting that there are certain things that we are born with, like our personality traits, our temperament. Those are things that we're born with, by which we can modify to some extent. But then values, no one's born a thief or born honest. These are things that you learn. And who do you learn them from? That's what we're going to look at today. From the poll that Maggie just showed us, clearly your children go to their parents first, before they go to their friends, before they go to their siblings, before they go to their teachers. If we're looking at what's in that poll, there are all these influencers, you might say, who determine what sort of values you begin to value, to say this is important. In our family, we don't do this. In our family, this is how we do it. In our school, our class, our team, there are all these influencers who shape the kind of values that you have. And if you espouse certain values powerfully, they become deep beliefs. Then you'll be like those Germans and the Japanese who hold certain values so dear that they can't do anything differently. So I'm going to let the rest of the panelists talk about how we get these values. Is it through our parents, through our teachers, and through what process? Is it by storytelling, as Clifford is going to talk about? So these are just different ways in which we'll get at this topic. And hopefully at the end of this, will understand it a lot better and know even how to put it into action.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for such a powerful introduction. I particularly challenged by the question you put to us at the beginning. When the question is put to you, what are the values? Then it evokes, it forces you to look in the mirror or to be quite introspective, and that values are not skills. And maybe our focus as educators has been very much on the skills we put into children rather than the values we inculcate. And that's something I've gotten from your presentation, which I think is very true. Just some reactions from the audience, which I found interesting. A gentleman or a lady called Tillman, who I think may be German, decided that they really like the Germans. We do too, and the machinery they produce. And somebody else in the audience said that our values ought to match our character. And I think that's what we want to explore today, that what we have deemed as our value system as a country is not reflected in what we then do and what becomes our character. So there's a mismatch somewhere. And I think perhaps what we'll try to explore is why that mismatch exists. Now, to Patricia, just as a reaction to Dr. Vincent, some learners exhibit behaviors that are, innate in nature, or we think they're innate in nature. Specifically, we have learners in our schools through this. We have learners in our schools who exhibit some characteristics that seem innate in nature. Is there something that can be done? Is it possible to inculcate values in learners who have such a deep set personality, in your experience as a teacher?
Yes, thank you very much, Jane, and Dr. Ogutu, and thank you very much for reminding us. I wondered what, as a Kenyan, what's my then distinguishing character as a Kenyan? If the Germans are known for class, and Japanese are known for respect, what is a Kenyan known for? I will leave that as a question. But yes, Jane, ultimately, when we are born, we are all born with a particular personality. And I'm going to speak from a firm belief that we are created by God for a particular purpose. And God inputs in us specific talents, that even as the children then go to school, the teacher then must be careful to have that in their conscience and in their consciousness, so that as they teach, then that then becomes a driving force to realize that behind and inside of this child is an individual who was created to make a difference in their world. Because when these children then come to school and we begin to focus on what is called intellectual, then we lose out on this personal segment. This is where the character of the child is, the personality of the child is. How do they even learn? Are they kinesthetic? Are they tactile learners? Are they intellectual learners? Are they visual learners? And who are they and who are they becoming as individuals? So that as we teach, and this is now what we call holistic education. Unfortunately, over the years, and I shall not name any kind of whatever era, teachers really are the markers of a nation. And they're the foundation of all education. They build their personality developers and their guides. So education, again, we keep saying, is the most important investment any government can take. Let's take the example of Singapore. Singapore that became independent in 1959 from a small little, side port, part of Malaysia, and then broke away. I mean, there was nothing to speak of then of Malaysia. Of Singapore. But look at the superpower they have risen to. And one of the top nations in the world, that is the top 10 corrupt-free nations of the world. Singapore was built on the principle of values, period. Meritocracy. That people who work hard and who have succeeded in putting in their determination, their hard work, their respect, their discipline, their commitment, all these other ethical values are the ones that were given that mandate to run that nation. And look at where they are now. So education, honestly, is a most important part of building a very strong, sound nation. So what we say is, therefore, that the task of any education is really not just to produce A's and A stars. And we know that 5, 6 years, probably even 4 years down the line, we've had years and years of students, teachers, principals, parents working in how do I put it? I want to put it mildly, but I'm saying they were collaborating to help the child cheat in the exams, so that when that child, therefore, the results are announced, they have an A. An A, yes, but what else? And this is where now this nation has got to go back to the groundwork and figure that the 3 other quadrants we possibly do not emphasize enough on, we possibly don't think are important, now become such a key important thing if we are going to build this nation and come out of the bottom, I don't know how many, most corrupt country in the world. Think Singapore, think Finland. That's their story. So we must work in partnership with the parents. These vital partnerships also with community. We keep talking about a child is raised by a whole village, not just their parent. And yes, Dr. Guto has told us right from the home, when their family values, and then this child then joins school. The wider community and parents and teachers, therefore, once we are aligned, and here I'm talking ethical values, we then set up what is called a consistent message about the right attitudes and the right action. So that when this child joins the world of work, they know that their meaningful, productive existence in society is built out of basic respect, basic discipline, Ubuntu, so to speak. So this character education, which we have a tendency of ignoring, these 3 quadrants, are the ones that really make holistic education. So I would that our teachers and ourselves and our training take the example even of Finland and Singapore. In Finland, I think the 5 top percent graduates are the ones that are taken up into teaching. Finland focuses on really training and developing a very solid group of teachers who then, because of their modeling, because of their teaching, ensure that the ethos and the culture, not just of the country, but of the school, have a very productive outcome for the students. How do we teach our children? Just put in your effort. Effort is everything. Let's not lie, let's not cheat, let's not try and get into shortcuts, because this is what they're going to grow developing, thinking it is okay to do that. Then you have a nation that you want to bribe your way into anything and bribe your way out of anything. So I think for teachers, and I must say this with a very deep respect for my professions. I've just my fellow professionals. That that poll that Maggie displayed there, where after they miss the lessons, that means there's some intellectual, they're driven intellectually. They want to be productive. Now, in the next slide, let me ask the audience, because I've just talked about holistic education. And holistic education is where there's balance, what we call equilibrium. Looking at the triangle on the right-hand side, we keep talking about resources. We keep talking about we don't have enough books. We do not have enough materials in which to teach. But let me put it to you that an effective teacher is the most important factor in a student's learning, because the teacher is the key resource. Vocation simply means it's a calling. This is what you'd rather be doing. That is number one. Number two, profession. A serious teacher that goes and digs and continues to read and to reflect and to think, how best can I do what I do? They themselves must be a model that the children would want to associate with. And I'm glad to see that teachers came in, I think, number 4. Fantastic. So a quality teacher, in order for us to reach what is called holistic education and transform these children's lives, a teacher who is going to take time to research and bring in fresh information into class, but also allow the children to contribute. We are all taught, and all teachers are taught, what is called classroom management. And classroom management is not equal to having a pin drop silent class and kids are scared of even whispering. Because remember what you used to be told, pin drop silence. So you don't want to break that kind of silence. Right now, I think for this era, we have a lot more. We are challenged a lot more in trying to put in the ethical values, because there are so many more challenges with our children, particularly on social media. But for them then to get that transformative, to transform their lives, so that as you release them to the world, you can sit back and say, I have done a good job. And the children are the ones who will tell us whether we have done a good job or not, because of the nature and the person they become in the world of work. And I think that is where holistic education then becomes very important. Character education, therefore, becomes very important. We create a moral community. We help each other. They feel valued as part of the group, and therefore they go and make their contribution in a way that supports the country and has the country grow. So let me close by really saying that at the end of the day, a bad teacher will disempower the learners. And that personality Jane you talked about may even end up crushing the child's personality or crushing the very thing that God put in that child. A good teacher, on the other hand, nurtures, and that's the real meaning of education, to bring out, because this teacher validates the student and the learners, and then makes them and creates in them a very sound belief that the things that I believe in are really indeed the correct things, and therefore you enhance that. So I'll stop there because I can get carried away with this subject. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Patricia. That was quite powerful. A good teacher validates at all times.
Yes.
And now, and you touched on something, and I saw part of the audience reaction about the situation of teachers in Kenya. So I want to direct a question to Mr. Clifford, because he has experience with his work at Deep Sea. I am a teacher, and I teach in an informal school, and my class has 100 students. What Patricia suggests sounds like it is only doable if I have the 20 to 40 students. How How do I validate a class of 100? How do I inculcate values in a class of 100? Please go, Mr. Clifford.
Okay, thank you very much. I think Patricia talked about it because it's all about modeling, the teacher being a role model. So this teacher in whatever school with 100 kids in a class, 150, the first thing is that they have to model the behavior. They cannot get away with coming late, drunk, shabbily dressed, a filthy talk and whatever kind of thing. I mean, even the kids always know the smartest teacher, kind of the well-dressed teacher, the politest. The kids know why, because those teachers are modeling certain things. So it's all about modeling. Your behavior has to be modeled from there.
That is quite understood. Again, all I hear in this is monkey see, monkey do, even for the adults.